Views expressed by Casters Guild members are only the opinions of that member, and that could change from day to day. Guild members may use mature language, but that in no way means they are mature. Listener discretion is advised.
We're catching the bug of the newest Snowbright Studio game. Only a few things from Gamescom feel like they're worth talking about. And why must Disney take away the shows we love? Well, that's the spell we're casting tonight on Casters Guild. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Casters Guild. I'm your guild master, Rick Perry, and I'm just a couple dice short of a full poly set.
And I'm your guild master, Baron Kane, and
Me?
I think I got the rest of your dice.
Oh.
And we have a brand new guild member joining us. Feel free to introduce yourself.
I'm Carrie. I am the communications manager over at Snowbright Studio, and I don't know if it's possible to have the rest of the dice. There's never enough dice. There's never an end to dice.
Never, ever.
So we missed you over at Origins because Origins got a little crazy and then other gaming conventions happened. So could you tell us a little bit about what you brought with you to Origins?
Yes. Well, the last couple conventions have been sort of exciting because we have been working with Kristen Mott on a game called Insectarium, which will be launching on Kickstarter on the 10th of September. And we have been taking that with us to conventions and showing it off and letting people check it out and play it. So it's been really fun to see it in other people's hands. We weren't running playtests in our booth at Gen Con, but Kristen was there, and it was really sweet because people would run into her and they'd play it with her, and then they'd run over to us and look at the box and check it all out. And it was really cool. We're very excited for it.
What kind of reception have you been getting at Origins and Gen Con?
It's been really well received. It's a really fun game. I think the thing that I really like the most about it is it's really quick to learn. It's simple to set up. It's simple to play, but there's still a lot of strategy in it, which makes it fun because it's a game that you can introduce to people pretty quickly and get playing. It's not too heavy, but there's still enough strategy in it that it allows you to kind of be thinking and making some decisions, while you're playing to kind of change the outcome of your game. And then the art, I think, is just lovely. Really happy with the art that we got back for the project. There's just some beautiful insects. And then Kristen did, I think, just a fabulous job of highlighting kind of the variety that you see in nature. So we've got some really cool specimens. So it's a really pretty game. People have been really excited for it, which is really nice to see. Everybody that has playtested it so far has had a lot of great feedback. They've really been excited for the gameplay, and I'm really looking forward to the campaign kicking off. I think it'll do well. It's a really pretty game. It's a fun game. I think it's a good one to add to collections, especially if you're somebody that likes kind of the nature vibe, which there's a lot of people that do. This fits really nicely into that sort of a collection.
I had actually noticed about a lot of your stuff. I was taking a look at your website, and the art in general across all of the games that you guys have on there is pretty fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a really kind of an amazing art team. We're a really small studio, but we really believe in the creative process and supporting creators. So if it's not something that our two in-house artists have done, we work with an amazing kind of group of contractors for outside projects as well. It's something that we put a lot of time and thought into. Products, like games, should be an experience, and that's sort of a wide arcing kind of theme. So, how does it play? How does it look? How does it feel? We put recipes under TTRPGs. Like there's a depth that we like to go to with our products. And art is definitely one of them. It's eye-catching. It's something that kind of draws you in and also gives you a sense and a flavor for the type of game that you're playing. So art's key.
Absolutely. One of the best things about a game is when, the art and the theming can come together. Well, the theming and the gameplay can come together using the art and everything to kind of tell one kind of homogenous story. And from what I've seen from a lot of you guys' stuff, you're pretty good at that.
Thank you. Yeah, we it's pretty fun. We produce kind of predominantly TTRPGs, which, I mean, there's massive to be played lists, even in the tabletop board gaming world in general. But I think like TTRPGs are sort of famously something that you buy a ton of them, and because campaigns take so long, it takes a long time to be able to get to play through them. And we've had people come by our booths and be like, "Oh yeah, I picked up Tea Time Adventures 2 years ago. We still haven't finished our main campaign. We're hoping to start it in the next year." But sometimes I just sit down and I just page through it and I just read it and I just look at it. So it's nice to know that does come through and it does resonate with people.
What's one thing you would want our listeners to know about Insectarium, and one thing you'd want them to know about Snowbright Studio?
Insectarium, it's launching soon. So if you haven't followed it on its backer kit pre-launch page or on Kickstarter, I would find it now, give it a follow. That way you get the announcement when it goes live. I'm really proud of it as a game. If you like to support, female creators, if you like to support LGBTQ studios, there's a little bit of everything. This was a game that was built by a very diverse group of people, which I think is really important in the game industry. So if that's something that matters to you, that's also something that is represented in this game.
You are speaking directly to our audience.
Yeah, that's like Snowbright. We're your neighborhood queer studio. We design games to fill what we feel is a gap in the market. So there's usually a purpose behind what we do. When we started creating Tea Time Adventures at that point in time, there just weren't really cozy, non-violent TTRPGs on the market. We hit Kickstarter right around the same time as Wander Home. So then you had two of us out there. And now obviously you can walk through a convention center and you're going to see lots of booths with lots of cozy games. So it's beautiful that has sort of grown up around kind of this movement that's sort of gotten quite a lot of momentum, which is awesome. But we wanted to make sure that we were telling really wholesome stories and heartwarming stories, because a lot of times when you see diversity represented in games, it's trauma-based or trauma-informed. And so it's not always the kind of representation that you want to see kind of from your community. We want to be able to tell really sweet, wholesome stories that aren't kind of based in that sort of thing. So it's been really nice. We've got some amazing NPCs we've created. I love the representation in our games. I'm hard of hearing, so the fact that our mayor is in Tea Time Adventures is also hard of hearing is really cool. I love that we throw a lot of ourselves into the products that we make.
Yeah, it's always good to see yourself represented in the games that you get to play. And, while the stories that are trauma-based are important, it's just as important to have one to see those characters thriving, not just surviving, whatever it is they have to go through. And to see a character with your particular disability, I know I get disability from the VA, and my disability isn't usually seen as a quote-unquote disability within a lot of the community, because I have tinnitus or tinnitus, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And my favorite movie in the whole world right now is Baby Driver, because the main character, the title character, has tinnitus, and the entire movie, especially if you watch it with headphones, even people who don't have tinnitus can experience what it's like, because the entire audio is through Baby's perspective.
Right.
And that's fantastic. And just to see that within games that you play as well, that's just great.
Yeah, it's huge. I remember kind of the first time I saw a deaf or hard of hearing character on just a cartoon or an animated show that I was watching, and it was just, I wasn't expecting the reaction that I had to it. It meant a lot to me to see that. So I'm happy that we get to create those experiences for our fan base.
And I know we're way past Origins at this point, but I've been asking this question of everybody who was at Origins. Become one of my favorites. I know you went to a lot of different conventions. There's a lot of different reasons to go to different conventions, but why Origins?
Part of it is that we're an Ohio-based company. We're remote, but Ohio is the hub of where we are. So to some extent, there's a locality to it that we like to support. It's also it's hard to say, because you connect with people at all the conventions, but there's something to be said for size. And I think Origins is still sort of a nice size. So it allows you to connect with people and meet with people without it necessarily being the scope that like Gen Con is. Like, it has a different feel. Like, people come and talk to us at Gen Con, and it's great, but like we'll get a lot of people that come back and they're like, oh, I saw you at Origins, and they were able to have like really long, deep conversations with our team, where at Gen Con it's a little bit different. Like, we still get to have those conversations with them, but not necessarily as in depth. They get cut short a lot because people are coming in. So I think it's just a different experience. They all have such a different flavor and vibe that, if you're as an attendee, if you're going, or if you are, in the industry and you're going, I think it's always great to go to at least all of them once and then figure out which ones are the ones that like meet your needs, kind of based off of what they provide for you.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty great answer. How long have you been in quote unquote the business, or what brought you into the business?
I have a long and windy road. So I grew up gaming, mostly in the digital space. I was one of those houses, we lived out in the middle of the country, so we didn't have cable. We had like one TV channel, but we had like ColecoVision and Atari. So I cut my teeth on like Spy Hunter and Frogger and Hubert, all those old games. I played with my parents. Both my parents played video games. And then like, as far as board games were concerned, it was Stratego and Broadsides. And those were just awesome games that I loved, that my dad introduced me to. And I just continued to play growing up. My dad and I just sank so many hours into playing like the Myst series of games. And I got really active in Sea of Thieves and played Minecraft. My kid started playing video games at a really early age. So it was just always something that has been part of what I've done. When I got my teaching credential and started teaching, I had a really unique kind of classroom situation where I taught 3 different grades in one classroom. I had all my students for 3 years, and the range that you have of where everybody is developmentally is huge. I had middle school students that were at a second grade reading level that were in the same grade as a kid that had like a collegiate reading level. So there were a lot of challenges that are presented. And one of the things that clicked right away was that gaming is a way to reach students where they are. And there's a lot of ways you can kind of utilize that. So I brought in a lot of board games into my classroom, brought in just a lot of games into the classroom, utilized digital gaming as well. TTRPGs actually created a world for them to role play through for some of their curriculum. So it really kind of became something that was enmeshed in my classroom. And then when I sort of transitioned out, I was in the esports EDU sector for a while, when I ended up meeting Grace, who was our CEO at Snowbright. We sat on a panel together in Florida. And then I came on as the communications manager for Snowbright, because I was running communications for a couple different groups at that time and managing a lot of stuff for an esports EDU group that I was participating in. So it just sort of was the transition. I still consider myself a newbie. I've been working at Snowbright for 5 years. So I've been in the industry for quite a while now, but I still have, like, my background is still largely digital. I don't live in a household that plays a whole lot of board games outside of like escape room games. So I'm still learning. I'm still building up my repertoire and like my resume of tabletop games. So I feel like I got a lot of the industry insight from working in the industry and being on this end of the fence. But then somebody will pop out and be like, oh, what's this? And have this. And of course you play that. And I'm like, I haven't. I'm sorry. It's on my list.
Well, we love gamers, new, old, anything. So you're always welcome in our community.
Thank you.
Well, I've definitely followed the backer kit for Insectarium, and after looking through your website, I might have to consider a subscription to this cozy companion.
Ooh.
Before we move on to the next topic, Baron, did you have any questions?
Well, actually, let me first point out that I've been awfully quiet because the guild ice cream truck has been outside for like almost the entire time you guys have been talking. So
So you've been kind enough to not let the mic pick up on it. Yeah.
yeah. It's been crazy. Anywho, but no, something I've been kind of wanting to say through gaps in the conversation is that I think I've been unknowingly following your entire company for a little bit now. Just different games keep popping up that I'm like, oh, this looks cool. I'm going to keep my eye on this. And then I don't even think about, oh, let's see who the company is to see who's releasing these. But they're like some of my favorite games. They're like, I think I had like a kind of a Twitch following there for a while. People that would just come and watch me play cozy games. Mm-hmm. Like, I love Stardew Valley, all that stuff. And this was right up my alley, and I've just been waiting to just pick something up. And then, before this podcast, I was looking through and just saw Ink, which is another thing that I had my eye on. And then the Time Cats just looks amazing. I'm just so excited. So excited. So I've been just kind of over here stewing the whole time we've been talking.
We've got some cool stuff. Like I love what we do. It's funny because we just got proofs in for the second edition Tea Time Adventure stuff. We just shared it in our Kickstarter update. And it's wild because like Grace posts the pictures, and for me, like I've been on this journey every step of the way. So like I know we make games, but the first time you see like the actual product that's come in for a new product, you have that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, we made this. It's funny. I hope it never gets old. I still love that excitement that we all get when we see the thing. It's pretty cool. The new thing that I just got showed today, I haven't got to have my hands on it, but I'm going to get to see it next week. Will be Cozy Compendium. So we took all 6 issues from the first year of Cozy Companion and put it in a book. And this thing is it's a tome, and I'm so excited to see it. I'm so excited to see it. So I get to get my hands on it next week.
Oh, exciting.
All right, well, we will have all those links in the description down below, so definitely go sign up for that backer kit and make sure to check out the website for some of the other stuff. But in the meantime, Gamescom is something that happened this past week, and a crazy amount of stuff got announced. I will let our listeners know I'm going to be getting a lot of this from Polygon because we did not get invited to Gamescom. But, maybe get us an invite next time. So before I just start going down the list, Baron, is there anything in particular that you were really excited about from this announcement list?
I was really hoping you were not going to ask me that, because looking at the games that they are talking about, I'm not really excited about a single game on the list.
Well, that's a hot take all on its own.
Yeah. Some of them look kind of interesting, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, okay, I have a few games in my pocket right now that I'm really invested in, and I don't really have the bandwidth to really be excited about anything else right now. I mean, even Indiana Jones, it was just like, oh, okay. But in terms of like what they're talking about being released, that secret level show looks amazing.
Yeah, I watched that trailer several times. I actually slowed it down at the end, went frame by frame, because they have a list of products that are going to be included in Secret Level.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody who hasn't seen the trailer or doesn't know, Secret Level is basically this new anthology show that's going to be put out on Prime Video. It's done by the same people who did Love and Robots, which already has me on board because that was a fantastic series.
Mm-hmm.
And included in that list, it flashes so fast at the end of the teaser, but included that list is Warhammer, Unreal Tournament, New World Eternum, PlayStation, Dungeons & Dragons, Outer Worlds 2, Pac-Man, Honor of Kings, Armored Core, Mega Man, Spelunky, Exodus, Crossfire, Concord, and Sifu.
It's kind of an exciting lineup. There's some really great short features on Love, Death, and Robots. So I'm hoping that this is like, that even if you don't like all of them, there's going to be a few that are just bangers and they're going to be fantastic. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see even the shorts about the properties that I'm not into, just because it's put together by those people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still probably going to enjoy the story that they tell.
And it's funny too, because like I was originally watching this, and I'm like, this is almost like the Ready Player One that we deserved.
I feel like
What?
this is wild speculation here, by the way. I feel like the PlayStation episode, especially because you'll notice they didn't name a particular game; they just said PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch a lot of the scenes that flash by in a split second in the trailer, Kratos is standing in the middle of like what looks like a modern day New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they're almost going for a what was that game called that came out on PlayStation that was kind of like their Smash Brothers clone? PlayStation All Stars. I feel like we're kind of getting a PlayStation All Stars short because we saw a few different quote unquote PlayStation mascots in settings that they don't normally belong in. So I think they're going to kind of mash them up into one episode, and that's probably one of the ones I'm most excited about.
I was just happy to see Tiamat.
Yeah. I wish I could be happier, but like, I'm still angry at WotC.
Yeah, it's still scratching an itch though for me, especially considering my favorite is Dragonlance. So
yeah,
I don't say Takhisis for the people listening. If I say Tiamat, you're gonna know who I'm talking about. If I say Takhisis, you might not.
Fair enough. To our new guild member, you said you were kind of newer to the tabletop thing. Are you a video game enjoyer?
I am a video game enjoyer. I tend to be drawn more towards like open world exploration games. Like I love Sea of Thieves, I love Minecraft, I love Skyrim, I like the Fallout series. So there's definitely a type of game that I like, but I am really into everything else too. So I'm one of those people that'll watch playthroughs of new games just to like soak in the story and the lore and the gameplay. Even if I know I'm never going to play the game. So like if I know it's not my type of game, I'll usually watch the game and take it in kind of like you would a movie or a TV show. So I also always consume video game related content. So if there's a video game based TV show or movie or book, I will usually try and grab it and read it or watch it. So I'm all about the series. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I feel like I could agree with you on a lot of those points. And as far as the type of games that you're into, you're definitely among good company here.
Yeah.
So let me, you know what? I'm not gonna. I know we do this a lot on this podcast where we just kind of read the list and kind of give like small impressions on each one. But I feel like neither you or I, Baron, are excited about a lot of this list. So I'm not gonna do that. I think I'm just gonna point out a couple that caught my attention, and then we'll move on. So the big announcement, of course, was Borderlands 4. Which
the first one bombed, so I don't know how they already got to 4.
It has a die-hard fan base, which is currently thoroughly disappointed because of the movie. So
yeah, we let the movie have it last episode, but yeah. I've been a Borderlands fan for a long time. I'm one of those people who bought like the $200 special edition when Borderlands 2 came out, and that came with the loot chests and all that good stuff. I've even done a little bit of Borderlands cosplay in the past. I will say I was disappointed a little bit by Borderlands 3, by the general story, and I feel like it's kind of gotten away from what it used to be. And unlike a lot of diehard Borderlands fans, when I saw this teaser, I feel like it's getting even further away. But it is just a teaser, so who knows what we'll actually get out of it. I am reserving judgment, but the teaser they gave definitely doesn't have me super excited just yet.
And when is it? It's set to come out in 2025, right?
Correct.
And we haven't seen gameplay footage yet either, right?
No, all we've seen is just a little teaser, and they just said sometime in 2025. We don't even know what quarter or anything.
Which is honestly smart. Like, as a deliverable, especially with what I think a lot of video game companies have been experiencing in the last several years of, setting a release date and then having to walk it back because they haven't finished the product. If you're a year out and you don't have gameplay footage, it makes makes me a little concerned. You wouldn't expect them to have a ton of it, but you'd expect them at least to have a little bit. But you never know. But giving us some time in 2025 is probably a smart.
Agreed. And Gearbox is kind of known as the company that kind of stops delays. They're kind of famous for finally making Duke Nukem Forever happen, even though it wasn't great. But, I feel like when they feel the game is ready, it'll come out. And I do believe if they're saying 2025, it'll come out in 2025. And, we'll see. Like I said, I'm reserving judgment.
I think that's all you can do now.
Yeah.
With how so many releases have gone, that's really all you can do. Like you're seeing so many people not doing pre-orders anymore, and calling to their friends and family to like not do pre-orders anymore. It's. I think so many more people have been let down with releases in the last 5 or 6 years that now it's like watch gameplay from early release. Content creators, people are doing their due diligence and doing research now, just because it's. Games are so expensive upon release at this point, and we've all had our hearts broken by at least one title. In some cases, many. I've finally learned my lesson, but it took me getting crushed by Fallout. So yeah.
Oh, are we talking 76?
Yeah.
I hear it's much better now.
It is way better now, but it took years, and it took the community complaining, and it took them developing a pile more content, and it's got a very dedicated group of people playing it now. But it is one of those games that it was hyped for its release. Everybody pre-ordered it, and what you got was just not it.
Yeah,
and they've made it there now. Like, it's a good product now, but I think it's, for me, it was that moment of like, yeah, we might be done pre-ordering. We pre-ordered a pile of, Call of Duty games in the past too, and those have not always lived up to hype on drop as well. So, it is what it is. I think everybody expects a lot from games when they're released, and then sometimes it's just that push to release the, what you've got. Whether it's not there. And now that everything is generally subscription based, you can just push your DLC later and your expansions later.
Yeah.
It's shifted. So now we get like this very base kind of bare bones starter at some point. And then the game builds itself out over a couple of years. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Like, I think Sea of Thieves is a good example of a game that has changed a lot since it was released.
Oh, absolutely.
But it still had enough value when it dropped that it didn't lose as many of the people that initially came into it as like Fallout 76 did. There were a lot of people that walked away because it just wasn't there. And now it is, but like I haven't gone back to it. Too much time has kind of passed, but
I was also among those burned by 76, and I have quite a few people who've told me I need to come back.
I've got friends that constantly post screen caps from it. They play with their buddies like at least once or twice a week, and they just have so much fun. So maybe one day I'll re-download it and play it, because I've heard that it's great now.
I actually enjoyed it more when it was first out.
Did you? Okay.
I did. Only because I think it was because all of the people who were complaining about it didn't play it. So I pretty much had free reign of the game server, just running around by myself.
Yeah.
In the game that I wanted to have, the, not MMO.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. To me, there just wasn't enough. It was like, I got tired of killing critters. It was like, I wanted something else. I wanted NPCs and quests and stuff that just made it feel bigger than it was. It was interesting how small the world felt to me when I first got into it, because I was really hyped for it and I was really excited about it, because the only thing I have really ever wanted is a multiplayer Bethesda game. Like, give me Skyrim that I could, and I don't want like a big MMO, but if I could load into Skyrim with my dad and play with him, or that would be awesome. Like, they've got some great open world games. Being able to explore with a handful of people, just
I think if we could find a happy medium.
Yeah.
Like, there are those games out there where you can get like 3 to 4 of your friends joining in. If they did a Bethesda game like that, I'm in.
Yeah.
That would be great. Also, it'd be easier to make, I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Also, Baron, I think you didn't mind as much that there wasn't a whole lot of story and a whole lot of quests there in Fallout 76, because you've always been a very make your own fun type of gamer. Like, the most fun I ever had playing 76 was in those early days, because you and your spawn took me to church at the Mothman Temple, and that was great. We just had our own fun roleplay experience.
Yeah, we would always show up every Sunday. We would hop into game every Sunday so that we could go and do service in the Mothman Church.
I love that. Yeah, like I think probably the most fun that I had in those early days was I had two friends that were really into like base building. Like base building was their thing, and so I popped in and played with them, and that was cool because they just had a different way of attacking it that I wasn't like totally my vibe, but because it was their vibe, I had a really fun time playing with them. Because they're what, like, if you were a base builder, like there was a ton of like fun stuff that you could do, and
a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of the people that I know that are still playing are the people that were really into base building from the beginning, because they were the ones that stayed and then started to see all the new expansions come out and then just continued to stay, where I think some of the rest of us just sort of bailed. And honestly, I mean, I can admit, bailed too early. Like, in hindsight, I would have probably stayed active and not played a whole bunch, but would have played at least a little bit until the game started to ramp up to where it is now. But I didn't give it that long.
All right, coming back to Gamescom, a couple other things that got announced that I'm actually am excited about. Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which is from developer Don't Nod, the same people who made Life is Strange. This is going to be another episodic game, just like Life is Strange was, except it's only going to be 2 episodes. Okay. So I feel better about that than I have about like the 5 episode games, and those episodes will come out on February 18th and March 18th of next year.
Okay.
I will say I probably would be more excited about this game if I would just play Life is Strange. I have it. I just haven't played it yet.
Oh, it's such an amazing game.
It looks great, but I have a feeling that if I'm not in the right mindset, it's not going to hit right.
No, absolutely not. It's not. It is a beast of a game in its own way. You have to be in the right headspace for it.
Well, you might have an excuse to play them coming up soon if you say that you're thinking about. I've heard you say you're thinking about streaming again really soon.
Yes. Yeah.
And that would be a really good game to stream.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. They
even have Twitch integration where you can do crowd voting for some of the major decisions in the game.
Well, I won't be using it because they don't know what they mean.
It's hard to give up control in a game like that, too.
It really is.
So emotionally invested in that game. Oh, yeah.
Especially when all you have is Chaos Gremlins watching your Twitch stream.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then they're like, oh, jump off the bridge. So, what? No, I don't want to.
All right, I've talked about this game a lot since it was first announced, but they did show us some more for Marvel Rivals, including giving us an official launch date. It will actually be launching on December 6th. I've seen a lot of the alpha playtest footage, the beta playtest. I just want to get my hands on it and start playing it and hope that it isn't like too much of a freemium game, and if I just play the free-to-play version of it, I'll still have fun with it. I was always an Overwatch fan before it got way too crazy, and if I can play that game with some of my favorite Marvel characters, I think I'm in.
I mean, you know my opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all fair enough.
I will say that if there was going to be any game that is... If I had to pick one game out of this list that was kind of just jumping out at me, that I might be interested in, it's not the IP that's interesting me. It's the subject. And that would be the Dune Awakening game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how I feel about open world survival games. However, this is also an MMO. So it's kind of like, I don't know how to feel about any of this.
Right.
I'm a very non-competitive person. I mean, we're just meeting, so I'll just allow me to introduce myself. I suck at PvP, so
I'm not great at PvP either. It's never been my thing. Yeah, I'm not fast. I grew up getting an orange ball off a pile of geometric shapes. Like I don't have the quick aim that everybody does these days.
By the way, my son, I'm assuming you're talking about Cubert.
Yeah.
My son was talking about him the other day, and he called him Pubert. And
No!
I was like, wait, hold on. Who did you say?
No. That's funny. I love that though. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for like a game set in the June World universe.
Oh yeah.
It'll be curious to see more. I haven't got to see the trailer for it yet. Anytime these things drop in like my work week, I'm just so out of touch until the weekend hits and I can go and back watch everything.
Yeah, I think the only reason that we are on top of this stuff is because of this podcast.
It helps. It helps when you're like, I gotta know. And I'm like, I'm working.
Yeah, it's like
hop out of my rabbit hole on Saturday.
I owned a game store there for a little while for like card games, TTRPGs, board games, stuff like that. And I was on top of it because I had to.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't. And I fell so far behind. So I'm glad we started doing this to give us the excuse to get back on top of it.
Well, it makes such a big difference. When I was a teacher and I was active in the TTRPG space, I could tell you, and even when we were running, we ran a K-12 esports news website at Snowbright for like a year. And at that point, man, I could tell you everything that was going on with any game that could be played competitively. And now I'm like, I got no idea what just got up. I don't know. Pleasantly clueless.
All right, last one from Gamescom, and the only reason I'm bringing this one up is because who is making it. Peter Molyneux made Fable, made Populous, made Black and White, made Spore, which wasn't as good, but he's got a new one, Masters of Albion. It looks a lot like a Molyneux game where you have that godlike control, and it looks like you can possess different characters to kind of like your main gameplay is like over the entire world, town, and then you can go down into like one character story and like play as that character for a little while.
Yeah, this is the one that I want to know more about.
Yeah,
it's the one of this list that I will be watching in the months to come.
Yeah, I will once again retain the right to reserve judgment.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll say that while it looks neat, I'm a simple man, and this looks way too complicated for me.
Fair enough. A lot of Molyneux games are. But at the same time, with a lot of his games, you can also choose your level of engagement. Mm-hmm. Like, I know you're a Fable fan, right?
Yeah.
I think I've heard you say that before. And
honestly, I'll say this, though. It was more for the story than anything.
Yeah. But Fable was there's always way more to the game that you can choose to engage with or not engage with. And it doesn't really affect how well you can play the game or your ability to get to the end of the story.
Right.
And that's true of a lot of his games.
So I'll say this too for our listeners. If you know of any of the games that we have just outright snubbed and it gets you angry, hit us up in the Discord. Confront us. Be angry at us.
But, Baron, what always has cool products that I do not reserve judgment for, I think they're all cool.
Is it Snowbright Studio?
It is that, but it's also tvillain.com.
Oh. T-Villain is a t-shirt site where you'll find a killer limited edition shirt being sold for $13 only while supplies last. Every Monday, the site features a new design by a new artist. We would tell you what's featured right now, but by the time you hear this, it's already changed.
They choose the most ingenious designs that reflect everything evil and villainy, as well as works pertaining to anything artistic, pulp style, lowbrow, pop culture, TV, movies, music, video games, comics, etc. All things cool and evil, basically. To check them out and help out Casters Guild, click our link in the description. All right, so I recently, and when I say recently, we're talking just a few days ago, just finished the newest season of Umbrella Academy.
Okay.
Just so I know what level of spoilers we can go into, have both of you watched the newest season?
No. So we I've watched season 1 and 2, loved the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, oh crud, season 4 is out. We need to watch season 3 so we could watch season 4. And then the internet exploded. And now I don't know whether I want to opt into having my heart broken.
I will say you should at least watch season 3.
Okay.
That is definitely worth watching.
Okay. I've heard season 3 is still solid, but I've heard season 4. I mean, it's been amazing watching how, like, so when you've got things like The Acolyte, you've got like mixed reactions to everything that's come out about it, but like that's not the case with Umbrella Academy. Like, it has been almost unanimously just outrage on the internet.
How about you, Baron? Have you seen it?
I have not, but don't worry about my level of spoilerdom.
Okay. I'm going to give my opinion without getting too much into spoiler territory, because neither of you have watched it and you might watch it. The first thing I would recommend is just don't.
Don't watch it. Got it.
Yeah, just end at season 3. So, like, have you finished season 3 yet?
Yeah.
I have not.
Okay, so I won't tell you what happens at the end of season 3, but, like, just pretend the cliffhanger at the end of the season 3 didn't happen, and that they made it home, and that was the end of the series.
You got it.
And then it's perfect.
Done.
I started watching season 4, and I was... we're doing a thought experiment. A thought experiment. Okay.
Sorry.
If they did a season 4.
Gotcha.
Which is why they shouldn't have. We're with this thought experiment, we're gonna explore why they shouldn't have done a season 4 and why it would have been bad.
Right. You have a leaked script that would have happened if they made it.
Right, exactly.
Okay, cool.
So first of all, for some reason, Netflix got cheap and decided this was going to be the shortest season so far, and it's only 8 episodes.
Oof.
Are they at least longer episodes?
No.
Oof.
So the first few episodes, like 3 episodes in, it's really fast paced. They're getting right into the action, and I'm really appreciative of this. Right, I'm thinking this might be my favorite season of Umbrella Academy, and I'm thinking this might have a lot to do with the fact that it's only 8 episodes. Because I'm looking at the list, I'm seeing there's only 8 episodes. I'm like, okay, they're getting straight to the point, and I'm 100% fine with that. And then all of a sudden, the story hits a brick wall and does not move for like the next 2 episodes. And instead they go off on a bunch of these little tangents that have nothing to do with what is actually moving the story forward. They're all weird, and like not weird in a good way. There are characters doing things that are so far out of what is established for their character, which, I mean, I don't mind character growth and some character exploration, but this is not that.
That's the biggest outcry that I've heard, is that it where there were a season 4 that was written as such as you are throwing in as conjecture, is that it like completely dismantled the character development from the first 3 seasons.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of the things that are done out of character is them going back to some of the flaws that were kind of resolved in some of the original seasons, and just some of the things just come straight out of left field and just being weird for the character.
And I will say this too, that for you to say that it's essentially just scrubbing character development, that says a lot, considering how each season kind of starts out with them erasing a bit of their character development.
Yeah.
It's like they did a lot of character development through the season, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, we fell down the steps a little bit. So let's go ahead and work our way back up. Nope, fell down the steps a little bit more.
I think it's interesting, because I think one of the things that a lot of people liked about Umbrella Academy is they're flawed people. Like, and they've been able to explore that, but at the same time, like, growth is still being made.
Yeah, there's a big difference between the 2 steps forward, 1 step back that we got in the first 3 seasons, and the elevator straight to the basement that we got out of season 4.
Now, do we know, did the writing staff change? Like,
I do not know. As far as I know, it didn't. You know what? Let me give you a couple positives. The action scenes, which Umbrella Academy, I mean, I'm not sure how many people are in it for the action itself, but it's good. You got good action scenes.
Yeah.
The soundtrack's pretty killer, but that's always been true for Umbrella Academy. And
number, I'm assuming.
I cannot think of a good dance number.
They didn't have
in season 4.
What?
No.
Oh.
They had a dance number in every single one.
Yeah, well, season 4.
Okay.
There is a small dance number, which it's not even completed. It's kind of like skimmed over. Yeah. And it has none of the main cast in it.
Oh.
There's like 2 main villains. Actually, this isn't a spoiler. There's 2 villains named Gene and Jean.
Okay.
This season.
Nick, well, who the fuck is his name? Is it Ron Swanson?
Yes.
Okay.
That is one of the Genes.
Yeah, and his
Offerman.
I can never remember his wife's name,
yes,
but his
Offerman.
In real life, yeah.
Yes.
His IRL wife, who I think they make a wonderful fucking team.
Those 2 have a very weird dance scene, but that's one of the things that's weird in kind of a good way. Because their characters are like intentionally like cringy. But like it's one of their 2 characters are actually one of the best things about the season until the second half. And just the kind of their characters kind of just like crash and burn. And I don't mean that like they lose and like their plan crashes and burn. I mean like their characters could have been way better, and they were better in the first half of the season, and then the second half it just kind of falls off. But I would say that those 2 were another highlight of the season, as long as it's just the first half. We also get the weakest Reginald Hargreaves we've seen.
Really?
Out of the entire series. He is definitely not a good guy, but the way his character is portrayed is like he's the bad guy, but like he's not strong enough in his convictions to not just do whatever the kids tell him to do and work with the good guys.
Interesting.
Which is not Reginald, at all.
Yeah.
Which I get, it's supposed to be a different timeline and like it's supposed to be a different version of him, but that's definitely not the choice I would have made. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to take a minute on my podcast and rant about the fact that I kind of hated this theoretical 4th season.
Yeah.
And that just be glad that you get the chance to end it at the 3rd season.
It's not. Sure. Not engaged. I'm so sad, though. I was so excited for the theoretical 4th season.
Yeah, I was too.
Alas.
There is, however, another show coming out that I don't think will disappoint for one of our favorite streaming services of this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And we are getting Gastronauts on Dropout.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which I'm actually pretty excited about. The host, she's actually in the Good Mythical Kitchen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she works for Mythical a lot. Hilarious. Jordan, that's her name.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, she does a lot of like the sport stuff.
Yeah.
And they'll have her out to taste test stuff. But yeah, she's hilarious. But I've been noticing she's been doing a little more and more stuff with the Dropout people. So I was kind of wondering if this was going to happen eventually.
Mm-hmm.
She has a podcast, and she had Brennan and Izzy on it, and it was a pretty good podcast.
Yeah, I'm nothing but excited for this. There hasn't been a show on the platform or Dropout that has disappointed me yet. I mean, not every show on there is my favorite, but there hasn't been one that's been disappointing yet. I've always been a fan of competition cooking shows to the point of it being almost a guilty pleasure. Everything about this one just looks fantastic.
Well, it looks like it's going to be fun, which I enjoy, because I think there's so many different genres of cooking competition shows, and I do tend to enjoy the fun ones because they can be weird.
Yeah.
Our American cooking competition shows can get a little too intense for a different
Agreed.
animal.
I will say that I'm happy that they're not making the Dropout crew cook. Like they're actually bringing in chefs or cooks or whatever.
Yes.
And then the Dropout people, they come on as guests and then they give them prompts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did not need to see the Dropout crew version of Nailed It.
No.
We've seen that show already.
Yeah.
And
I am excited to see what they come up with the prompt horniest.
you know there's a reason that one's in the trailer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Everybody's coming to see that one.
But I do think it's fun though. Like you give people who know what they're doing like a one-word prompt. Like there's so many directions that can go, and they're all going to be awesome. Like
Yep.
Yeah.
And then leave it to Columbus, Ohio native Grant O'Brien to give them that one.
The only other person I could possibly expect that from might be Iffy.
Maybe Iffy, yeah.
Yeah. But we all knew it was coming from
horny,
Grant.
though, right? He's a tasteful horny. Grant is kind of like a chaotic horny.
Fair enough. All right, and the last thing we've got on the docket today came in from Guild Officer Billy. The Acolyte has been canceled.
Which I just think is dumb.
I'm not happy about that.
No.
Like
I was definitely late to the party when it came to Acolyte. I finally finished it way after it actually came out.
Yeah.
But I loved it. There were parts of it I didn't like. I think I talked about this before when we talked about like what brought it up. I think you were talking about Star Trek and how that one series in Star Trek kind of you felt like wasn't canon, Baron.
You mean everything after Enterprise?
Yeah. Via guild decree, no longer canon. But specifically, it was like that the numbered one. But I'm not a Star Trek person, so I can't think of the name of the show.
Deep Space Nine? Deep Space?
Deep Space Nine was before Enterprise and is fully canon.
Yeah.
It was that organization that like did the shady stuff behind the scenes.
Yes, you're right. Section 31.
Section 31.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And I was kind of talking about how an Acolyte, it kind of showed the Jedi Order as being kind of shady, which I wasn't a fan of. But right. I was still there for the ride.
Sure.
And I feel like it could have gone a lot of interesting places if they had continued it. And even though I might have had my things that I wasn't super big of a fan of, I still liked the series as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we watch all the Star Wars stuff in this house. We're definitely big Star Wars fans. I mean, I think the show had some issues with pacing. It was a little too shiny. Like it definitely felt like of all the shows that we have had come out, this was probably my least favorite. It just felt a little like it definitely felt removed from the universe a bit, but I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike it. It was just like this was a different approach to telling a Star Wars story. I didn't mind the shift of focus on the Jedi Order because like if you've consumed the Star Wars content, you know that the Jedi Order has an underbelly that's not great. Like they've let their sort of moral high ground get in the way of really being sort of a moral altruistic group. Like there's some downsides. There is a shady underbelly to it, which just happens, I think. I was really excited to see the story play out and get to see some of that and more moving forward because, you know, it was teased that we were going to see Yoda. We were going to see somebody that was sort of connected to the universe as we know it. So I thought there was some cool potential to be able to get some of that backstory that by and large just really hasn't been told. Like we've just been seeing this one view of the Jedi with snippets kind of being thrown in there. I mean, obviously if you are a big Ahsoka fan, then obviously you know that there's definitely some stuff that happened to her that wasn't great.
Right.
That happened at the hands of the Order. So yeah, I was like definitely not in love with it, but enjoyed it. I was bummed to see it get canceled. I would love to see the numbers on it, because I know a lot of people watched it, but I also know there was a lot of backlash for it, and not always for good reasons.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
not constructive backlash, and it was, yeah.
Well, if you're interested in the numbers, Deadline.com has some of those numbers here.
Okay.
It launched on June 4th with 2 episodes, generating 4.8 million views in its first day.
Okay.
To rank as the biggest series premiere on Disney Plus. The tally rose to 11.1 million views globally after 5 days of streaming.
Okay.
The series made its debut on Nielsen's top 10 originals charts in its premiere week at number 7 with 488 million minutes viewed, and climbing to number 6 in the following week.
Okay.
It has a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes amongst critics,
Fresh.
and is mostly divided amongst fans.
Which Star Wars fans, I mean, it's an interesting.
Yeah, that's true of every Star Wars product ever.
And really, it's just getting to the point where you could just say fans.
It's a very divided, agreed. Yeah, fan bases are very divided.
I think that there is a roving band of just gross, toxic, very loud people that go from fandom to fandom just to go in and disrupt shit.
Well, I think there's also just people have become so opinionated, and their ownership of an IP runs
There's
deep.
that too, yeah.
And when the IP doesn't fulfill their version of its trajectory, it becomes a big. You see it in all the.
Which I don't understand, because it's like, well, then they might as well just stop making stuff.
Yeah, that's the problem. And that's, I feel, a little bit like what we're seeing with Acolyte, is that, especially with these streaming services, if it isn't a hit, it's not worth putting the money into.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, not every show is going to be a hit. That doesn't mean it's not going to have a cult following. It doesn't mean it's not going to do well and that it's not going to be beloved, or it might, it could still be a key piece in, the history of an IP. I mean, even looking back now at how people view the prequels, even that is changing with a different generation. But unfortunately, with streaming services, you see it time and time again where a show does well. There's enough people who actually like it, but because it's not blowing up, it's not the next Bridgerton, they get canned, which is just unfortunate.
Which it makes it even worse too, because then eventually they're just going to take it off, and then the people who really loved it don't have access to it anymore.
Oh yeah, the whole lease to own sort of thing that's now with streaming content, that even if you buy it, it's actually not yours. It's just a long-term lease. Yeah.
I'm just going to start getting a bunch of blank VHS tapes, a bunch of VCRs, and I'm just going to start bringing back taping stuff from the TV again, if I can figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a bummer.
The rest of the numbers kind of support everything that you're saying here, because while it did in its premiere week debut at number 7 in Nielsen's top 10 and then climb to number 6 the following week, by week 3 it dropped out of the top 10 before returning to number 10 after the release of the finale, which you would think number 10 by the end of the season would be good enough, but it says here that most streamers, including Disney Plus, when they put $100 million per season into a show, number 10 is not good enough for them to invest another 100 million or more into a second season.
Yeah, I'm bummed. I wanted to see where they were going with it.
I'm in for any Star Wars property that doesn't have a Skywalker in it, and I wanted to see more.
We're getting a season. We're getting a season 2 of Andor.
Yes, we are.
Yes, yeah. Thankfully, I mean, I've loved the direction that they've been going in, and I think this one felt weird because it felt like a deviation for what they've been doing with their other shows. But I've really enjoyed getting to see these other snippets of the universe that we haven't gotten in the movies, and they've been doing some really cool storytelling. And this one just felt like it was going to be a long burn. How quickly can you come in and say, hey, there's something shady happening in the Jedi Order? You can't do that quickly, because I think you would have had a really knee-jerk reaction from the fan base, more than it already did. So it was going to be I went into it like, this is going to be a long burn, because the story that looked like they were going to tell is going to be one that's harder for people to swallow based on the organization that they're familiar with and love and hold on a pedestal. So there's going to be a lot of building. There's going to be a slower story being told, and more of it's going to emerge in like the next season. So I was expecting it to be slower, but maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I will say I really like to see a lot of the things we got to see out of the Acolyte. I love that we got to see the sisters, which we didn't get to see a whole lot of those, a whole lot of that in, canon when it came to after Disney bought everything. We're not seeing those a lot in the mainstream stuff. And then that crystal bleed scene.
Yeah.
That Kyber crystal bleed scene was fantastic.
That was
got
awesome.
a lot of hate.
It did, which it did not deserve.
No. But again, that's everybody like, well, this is how things happen. Like,
Right, exactly.
but why can't it also happen this way? Like, why can't we show it this way? Like, it was so beautiful and so emotionally impactful. Like, that was a strong scene. And I even loved the way they've handled the villain in this one, because in so many Star Wars products, like, the villain is the villain, and they don't try and make them likable. Like, they don't try and make you see them in any light other than, it's the scary evil dude. Like, there's not a whole lot of depth to them. I was really enjoying the fact that we had a villain that wasn't detestable. Like, there was other things going on and motivation there, and you could tell there was a backstory there, and it was like, cool, now we get to see how people make this slide in this other direction, and the complexity of that versus just the duality that you often see with Star Wars of it's light and it's dark. And I felt like with this show, we were going to get all of that in between the two. So I'm kind of sad we don't get to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you who's really bummed is our affiliate, Level Up Sabers, because they are just getting in all of the character sabers for the characters in Acolyte this upcoming week.
I know. There's some cool sabers, though.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I've seen some of the advanced pictures for the way some of these sabers look. And man, the Stranger, which is based off of that the small saber that can kind of come in disconnected and kind of becomes like a dagger saber, is going to be available on Level Up site, and it looks so good.
That was an awesome saber. That was beautiful. Well, I hope there were enough people that they still make some nice sales, because there were some good characters out of that. There's some good cosplay opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't you email us at castersguild@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about the Acolyte and whether or not you are upset about the canceling of Season 2. And maybe even the direction you're hoping that the rest of the Star Wars properties like Andor Season 2 is going to go. Carrie, if people want to find you somewhere on the internet, where can they do that?
If you want to find me on the internet, I am usually at Chocmoojoo, CHOCMOOJOO. And if you want to find the company that I work for, Snowbright Studio, well, that is usually at Snowbright. And we are pretty much everywhere except Twitter. That's the one place you can't find me or the company anymore.
Kind of same, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have those links in the description down below. Make sure to join us on our Discord. That's where all the fun stuff is happening. And we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.